Welcome back to the Spirit, Mind and Soul podcast. I hope you've been enjoying these episodes since we came back last month. We've really been delving into different spiritual modalities, different healing and growth modalities, and today I'm speaking with Sarah. Sarah's going to be talking about heart retrieval sessions and aura transformation sessions, which I knew nothing about. I've never heard of this type of work before, but Sarah explains all about it. She explains what it is, what it does, how she does it. And she also talks about her own life experience, how she ended up really falling into this type of work. She talks about everything going wrong in her life and her energy field. She talks about mixing magic and partying. Really interesting conversation. I hope you enjoy listening. As you might notice if you're watching this or listening to this, I was hanging on to Sarah's every word. I was totally engrossed in what she was saying. So you'll probably find she did a lot of the talking in this one. If you haven't already, I'd love if you could subscribe. You'll be notified when each episode goes out. You can hit that subscribe button now. It just takes a second. It would be much appreciated. And for now, here's Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for coming on the Spirit, Mind and Soul podcast today. You've got a really fascinating journey and work that you do, so I can't wait to delve in. There's a couple of things we're going to be delving into and finding out about. This is all new for me, so I can't wait to hear more about the amazing work that you do, Sarah. But before we do, obviously there's a journey into how you even, came about this and how you fell into this work. It sort of happened organically through your own personal journey. So can you take us back to then? One thing that you said to me when we spoke before was you were mixing magic with partying, and that's really intriguing for me. So I'd love to hear more about that and what life was like for you before you got to where you are now.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm just so pleased that you're in Scotland. I live in Scotland, so just the wanting more people to access this work, because I've come to Scotland with all these tools and techniques, and I think what we were wanting to talk about today, the aura transformation stuff to start with. I think that the best thing to do is if I just describe it in a couple of sentences, because what I try and do is use my story to illustrate this journey that happens when you have an aura transformation, because it's quite a complex topic. So just like as a little headline, like aura transformation is a one-to-one session. So you come individually for a session. It's 4.5 hours long in 2 parts. And the first part is the aura transformation itself. And what we're doing, and this sounds absolutely like, what? How on earth do you do that? But actually, what we're doing in that session is we're healing the existing aura the best way we can, like lots of, from inner child to trauma to karma to ancestral stuff, planetary stuff. And then what we're doing is actually dissolving this old-time energy structures. We call it the old-time, as in it's like the Nokia 360 version of the operating system of the human. It's like the older version that we're all kind of clunking along with, and it gets laden or perforated or frazzled or difficult to hold. And that's my journey, so I'll explain that in how that happened for me. And then and during the session we then integrate, once we've dissolved the old aura, we integrate the spirit energy. Your higher self spirit energy is able to come closer and into the body, and we call that crystallizing, and that takes up to 9 months to a year, sometimes more, to complete. So the session itself is like an on switch, like we're switching the system on. And at the end of the session, we integrate the new time crystalline aura structure. So we're dissolving an old version, upgrading into the new version, and then that sets off a whole process of really, and it sounds so out there and woo and all that kind of thing. And actually, it's probably one of the most earthly, grounding, be here now, really step into your power, your truth, your voice. So much happens when you integrate your own spirit energy and upgrade all your cells to a latest version of consciousness that children are born with. So that's like in a nutshell what an aura transformation is. So then if I go back to my story, people always ask, like, how did you get into this? And now I had my aura transformation in 2013, so we're hitting the 11th year of me having that, and I have since then become the international instructor, one of the international instructors for aura transformation. So I teach practitioners, and I had a course in Kansas in June this year in America. That was my first one in the US. I've traveled the entire world sharing aura transformation. Like I was invited to Taiwan. I started off sharing it actually in South Africa, all up and down the UK and Scotland, and also Canada, Australia, and there's probably some other countries I'm forgetting. But so I've been doing this like prolifically for a long time. And how I got into it was, I mean, I guess the seed of it is that I came from a family of people that are changing the world. Like my dad is a human rights activist, trade union guy. I've always seen him doing big things, moving and shaking and causing a bit of a ruckus and, questioning the status quo. And so I've had that in me, that kind of, world change, like wanting to contribute to the world somehow. And what happened was I went to uni, and I thought I could change the world that way, and I was very optimistic. I ended up hanging out or being involved with activists and alternative social movement people, and that for me was like, oh, we're changing the world. And then I actually wrote my dissertation about them, and actually realized we weren't really being very effective, and there was so much weird stuff going on within this, in those circles, in terms of power, control, leadership, effectiveness. And there was just a lot of stuff that's a bit darker in that scene that I kind of revealed through my own studying. And I was like, oh, that's a shame. It's not the way to change the world. I ended up working for the Welsh Assembly government, doing sustainable development and development education work. I got money for charities. I worked for Oxfam. I tried lots of different, each step was like, oh, I'm going to do something here. And actually I found myself, paper shuffling, locked into like an office and it just was like, this isn't changing the world. This feels really like a small, like not even a drop of water in the ocean. It was just like, this isn't it. And, the bit about magic and partying is actually a negative memory. And not negative memory, but like a not good to mix together. Do not do that. So I had found myself in these alternative scenes, and for me that it was revolutionary because I'm breaking the cultural conditioning and mold of what I'd grown up with, and I'd felt like I'd been duped by the system, like that our history books lied to us, that the way the world works isn't fair. Like I kind of opened my eyes to that side, like an awakening of, we could maybe call it the awakening to the matrix, or, that kind of power control. But actually the spiritual awakening happened later. And I was in this party scene and, life and soul of the party. And I was organizing big stuff. And that also felt like a revolutionary thing at the time. But when you're in something that blows your mind that much, then eventually it becomes sick. It's like not healthy to be constantly in that world, and it's really hard to escape that world because it's everything. It's all your friends. It's all the what you do on the weekend. It's all you talk about. And what happened was that I guess I took myself to places in consciousness that awoke. There was a part of it that did lead to my spiritual awakening, in that overnight, at some point near the end of that journey, my vision switched on, my psychic clairvoyancy switched on, and it was almost overnight, and it was actually quite scary and exciting.
What prompted that, do you think?
Well, it's a bit of a funny, I can't really explain exactly what it was, but I could tell that deep inside me, I was very steady in my consciousness and spirit. Like there was a strength there, and like that I can still feel today, and I could feel before. There's this steady strength of like, I don't know, like I really knew myself somewhere that I couldn't be toppled somehow, even when in some of the most psychedelic experiences I might have had. I don't really want to focus on the party drug scene because I mean I never really did that much in terms of drugs, and it was little bits here and there. But what would happen is I think it would awaken certain aspects of my perception. And I think what happened is that it was almost like there was a trigger moment where there was someone doing Tai Chi energy stuff in the corner of a room. And he said, come and touch this ball of energy. So I put my hands on it and I could see it. And then from then on, I could see what it looked like when he made a ball of energy, and it was full of filaments of light. And then from then on, I haven't really talked about this much before. And from then on, I could just see, for example, on an old lane, I could see every single footprint that had ever been on that lane and hoof. And it was almost like that thick with history. So suddenly I knew intuitively that I wasn't losing my mind. I was actually seeing what's there that you can't normally see. So I think my theory is that I was vibrating myself at a particular frequency that meant that certain realms of our world was becoming available to me. So I never felt like, oh, I'm lost my mind and I'm seeing things. I actually was like, wow, I'm actually seeing what, like past the veil somehow. I kind of knew it was that. And then, that's a huge amount of I suppose you could call it power or gifts or talents that comes online so quickly without any teachings or any support or any understanding. It was more of like I'm kind of peeling away the veils of amnesia. I knew there was a kind of, I'm remembering here. This is something in me that is coming online. That's what it felt like. And I started looking for teachers at this point. I was starting to like be, or reading or like trying to learn stuff. And I was like, well, maybe, that was always the way with me, is that I felt it, experienced it, saw it, and then looked for confirmation rather than the other way around. I wasn't like reading and absorbing to then see. It was me kind of investigating what it is that was happening to me. And I did the thing where I think I put my hand on a friend's head at some point. I think I've talked about this before, where a friend hurt herself. She like banged her head, and I just put my hands on, and she went, whoa. We both went, whoa. Like there was so much energy coming out my hands. So I started investigating, like, what's that? She said, I'd pay you for that. And I was like, really? And so at this point in the journey, I think I'm working for Oxfam at this point. And I'm also trying to leave the party scene, because I know intuitively, and I keep getting the message that this is not the place for you. And the problem is in the party scene is that in that environment and in that lack of self-care, and I was distraught, lost, heartbroken. I know we're going to talk about heartbreak stuff later, but I was kind of like flayed open and in toxic environments with really difficult relationships. I had beautiful friendships and I had beautiful times, and I had, I wouldn't change it, and I don't regret it, and I'm not vilifying it. I'm just, for me, it became toxic for me. And I knew that part of me that was everlasting knew this isn't the right place for me. This isn't where your potential is fulfilled. And there was a feeling I'm failing, like I'm failing myself. I'm not achieving what my potential was able to. So there was this deep feeling of failure, deep feeling of being lost, not being met, lots of disappointments, and people around me that were actually maybe even dangerous on some level sometimes. So I was putting myself in these situations, and I was also a single mum. So I worked hard and played hard and had a small child. And I also felt like I wasn't really being the mother like I could be. But basically, I see people all the time. We're under so much pressure in all these directions. And what I'd done, and I knew intuitively from trying to heal myself, I was trying to heal myself. I was doing Reiki. I was learning the tarot. I was putting myself through emotional boot camp to try and clear stuff. So I did a lot by myself, but there are pictures of me before and after aura transformation. And even when I was doing all the energy healing stuff and remembering and awakening and understanding all that stuff, it wasn't, there was some fundamental parts of me that weren't being healed, even with all the best intentions of working with energy consciousness and awakening and all that. It wasn't working fully. And I know now more, like I know solidly why. And that's because I had blown my auric field up, and that's part of the remembering too, is that I probably blew up things that were there was stuff in my energy field that was disconnecting me from my past and my, remembering who I was in other lifetimes, for example, or, that had dampened my consciousness down. So there was a kind of expansion of understanding myself and humanity and history more but I also blew up things that might be useful, like protection and like coherence in the auric field.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I was even with all the best intentions and healing myself, and I did progress a lot, and I did manage to leave the party scene beforehand, uh, before my aura transformation time,
Yeah.
at least a year or and a bit. I was, so I was making progress, but it wasn't enough in a way. It was still like there was still an inability to let go or forgive certain really disappointing situations. Like it was stuck in my system like a
Yeah.
rage,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't. And I tried doing love and light and pray on it, and it didn't
I
work.
know.
So there was stuff stuck, that was
Yeah.
hard to move. That even if I tried, it was not moving.
Yeah.
I could
And that
feel
affects
that.
your aura? That
Sorry.
that would that would affect your aura then, is that
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I would say it was actually stuck in the aura
Okay.
and maybe chakra system. But in a moment, I'll explain the
Mm-hmm.
anatomy of the aura,
Yeah.
which would then explain how that stuff all got stuck.
Yeah.
So I think I would say that I was not having auric protection at all, like the edges of the aura and
Mm-hmm.
between me and the world was so weak or open that I could walk past people and hear their thoughts, and I would go home and feel really like infiltrated and overwhelmed. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it was just like, yeah, it was. And a lot of people that come for aura transformation recognize this bit. They're like, oh, I can't go in a public place without feeling like totally knackered afterwards, or
Mm-hmm.
just being oversensitive. And I think a lot of people that think that, I mean, they are probably empaths, but a lot of people that label themselves as empaths, actually, I would say like 80% of the time just have like a really weak auric field from life experience. Anything like it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. It could be trauma. It could be
Mm-hmm.
heartbreak. It could be anything that shakes you to your core could literally burn away your protection because it's so traumatic or shocking. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So leading up to having an aura transformation, I just felt like there was the beauty of being on the healing path and the shamanic path and the breath work and the animal guides and the angelic realms and the galactic this and that. And, I was like, it was very colorful, very dramatic, sometimes scary. I woke up with like, I was having astral battles, but I was also being attacked in the night by energies. So it
Mm-hmm.
was all, and now I understand it way more. But when you're in the old aura, and certainly if you're not in the right place for you, like the right environment, right relationship, right town, wherever, it's like you're in, and the old aura itself is in these lower dimensions, third, second, first, like
Mm-hmm.
downwards.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're too low in dimensions for where your spirit really needs to be, it can feel like you're constantly in a swamp, murky, beings and entities that live there. It's like the computer with all the viruses on it. It's a bit like being in a virus-filled computer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I see all the time with clients, is that they're too low in the dimensions, and it's hard work being in that field. You're constantly kind of like having to bat things off, and if you have no auric protection, that's even more difficult. So, and how did I get into aura transformation is that I was on that journey of like kind of seeking and looking for an understanding, like what is happening to me and like, why
Yeah.
is it like this? And I'm
Yeah.
trying my best. And I heard, and this is what happens to most people and I imagine people that listen to this will be like, I was thinking like, what's next? Or what is the next evolution of consciousness? Like, I've learned this tool, but I know there's something else. Or they hear the word aura transformation, it hits somewhere because part of their spirit or their body just knows, like, I'm supposed to do this thing. And I've had
Mm-hmm.
people that have never, ever looked at anything remotely energy, spiritual, or anything like that. They've never even thought of it. And they hear the aura transformation or the frequency of it, and they just
Mm-hmm.
know. So I've had truck drivers,
Wow.
engineers, teachers, nurses, just people in everyday life that
Yeah.
just know that they need this. They just need this upgrade thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't make logical sense to people, but they have that
Mm-hmm.
feeling so strong. And it was the same with me. I kind of asked the question. I was like, there must be something after whatever it is I'm doing. There's like, I've reached a ceiling of as much as I could do by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that day, I think it was like, I heard someone, I can't remember exactly, I remember who, but I can't remember how, but she just said, yeah, I mean, are you ready for your next level of consciousness? Are you ready to upgrade? Are you ready to feel more love in your body than ever? You know, she said a bunch of stuff, and I was like, I already knew, like, before she'd finished the sentence, I was like, oh, I'm training in this. I kind of knew this is my thing straight away. And she said, and I rang the people that train people, the instructors, and they were like, well, there's a course in 2 months and 2 days. You literally need to have your aura transformation right now, or, you can't join the next course. And I just knew. So that was a bit crazy. And you need minimum 2 months from training, and longer is better, really. But yeah, so I was reading all the information, and I got myself down to London. And funny thing is that my train to London I was in Wales at the time, turned around after half an hour. Like, the train stopped and went back to the original location. And I've never had that experience. I was like, what is going on? And I hear about that all the time with clients, like their car won't start. So the all-time energy structure is almost like, don't, I want to stay. So there's like, we call it the resistance. There's like parts that want to stay in the all-time energy. So it's quite interesting, all that kind of thing. It happens again and again. And so I get to London, and I have this aura transformation, and I actually can't remember all that much about my aura transformation, because it's not really about that. It's what happens afterwards that's the main bit. And I'm not joking, within a few minutes, hours, weeks, days, weeks, months, the shifts were like huge for me. First of all, my mind was quiet. All the negative thought patterns and self-destruct stuff that I'd actually identified as ancestral. When your auric field weakens, it's almost like anything that is in your energy field, like your ancestral stuff, planetary stuff, anything, gargoyles, whatever's in your aura, it kind of gets closer and louder, because there isn't like a integrity of the self in there that's strong enough to overpower all the noise. So within moments, I had this like quiet mind. I remember looking out the train window and being like, there's no noise, there's no sound, there's no voices, there's no negativity. It's just quiet. It was quite eerie, almost like I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I'd never expected to be able to have a quiet, headspace. And I could feel instantly that I did not have to open and close chakras every 5 minutes, or I didn't have to lie down and do energy work just to be okay for the day. I haven't had to do any laborious, long-winded self-care since. I haven't had to do that. And I know people out there with the weakened auric field that are spending 2-3 hours meditating a day and doing all this stuff. And so when you have an aura transformation, you're instantly connected to your higher consciousness. Like, it's looking out of your eyes. There's a feeling like your spirit is in your body, and it's going, oh my God, I have hands and I can eat fruit, and like, whoa. It's like a very grounded feeling. Instead of feeling like you need to connect and meditate or something to reach your intuition and spirit energy, and you don't have to do all that. It's like here, available to you immediately. So it's like this instant connection to yourself, which is really powerful. And then I got home, and I mean, there's lots of other bits, but I got home, and my daughter, maybe within 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, she just looked at me different, and she went, "Mummy, you're here," or something like that. And she put her hand on my face, and she was like, "Ah," and it was almost like we saw each other for the first time, or I reached her level of consciousness, her direct, because she's a crystal child, and the aura transformation is, we are, as aura mediators, we are a bridge for the adults in the all-time energy structures we're helping them bridge into the same energy field that the children are born with in the last 30 years. So aura transformation has existed 30 years, actually, or just under. And which is like, it's like crazy to think that someone was able to create something that's still really powerful and relevant today. And we're still helping adults bridge into the new time energies. And so basically my frequency and where I end up in dimensions and my spirit in my body is matching her energy. And she saw that I was there finally in the room with her fully. Whereas before I was disassociated, I was stressed out, I was all over the place. So it was like, instead of feeling like I was drawn out in all these different timelines. And part of that thing when my eyes switched on and I could see energy is that I was also in and out of all my timelines, like past lives and things. I could be walking down the street and I'd have flashes of, like, I don't know, medieval villages and like things, and I'd be like, ah. And then so now what happens for people, and I know we're doing that in sessions, is we're drawing all the units of energy and consciousness that you've had splayed out across all your lives. We're bringing it into focus, into the here and now. And what happened to me afterwards, within like a couple of weeks, I was already planning my exit from my work. I'd already created a website. I'd started promoting myself in South Africa because I was going there anyway for a conference that my dad was putting on. So I kind of, suddenly I was doing, I did more work and focus and creation in that first 3 months than I'd had in the last 15 years or something.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like all your power and energy. If there's a feeling of like, I'm failing myself and I'm not using my potential and things aren't lining up, and it's almost like you don't have enough energy to line things up and it feels like you're in the wrong place. This is like, having your spirit energy in your body is going to align you onto the right path
I was
quickly.
going to say, yeah, it's like clarity. Like suddenly you have that clarity and you can see there's no outside noise distracting you or
Yeah.
society expectations of you. You can suddenly see what your purpose and
Yeah,
vision.
or you can hear like yes, no.
Yeah.
or the path lights up and you're like, I have to go there. Like there's nothing else but me going there.
Mhm.
I have to go there.
Mhm.
So that was, yeah, very powerful. The shift from one reality to the next. And
Mhm.
then I found myself in South Africa. No, I went to Finland 2 months after my training and trained with Annie Senov, who created this, to learn another whole set of stuff that she teaches around planet energies, how we personality profile people via planet energies. And then a month after that I was in South Africa, and I went 4 times because people in the UK weren't taking me seriously because I was like the girl that put on the big parties. So it
Mhm.
was almost like, what is Sarah doing now? And
Yeah.
and so I ended up just going to South Africa, and I did talks all up and down Cape Town, and I went 4 or 5 times, I think. And
Mhm.
I got lots of testimonials, and people were engaging with it. And then I came home and I started doing talks all the way up and down the UK and like spirit fairs and holistic centers. And then I started
Mhm.
working in a yoga center doing oral transformation from there in Lancaster. And I could tell, you can just feel, it was almost like the whole town shifted eventually. Like I wore transformed like hundreds of people there, and it shifted the energy there. And I know that's like grandiose. I'm not saying like I did that, but the crystal energy is from
Mhm.
Venus.
Mhm.
And the aura transformation appeared the same time as Gene Keys,
Yeah.
1987. And it also is when the indigo and crystal children appeared more fully too. And so aura transformation is an expression of the awakening of humanity. It's just one tool it's one
Mhm.
expression of this bridge that we're trying to make from an all-time, karmic based, rather torturous historical period of humanity. And now we're lifting people out of these lower dimensions into a new
Mhm.
dimension. So that swamp there is hard work, and spirituality in that swamp is beautiful, but it's also very noisy, and it's also very
Mhm.
messy, and it's also, it can be infiltrated with allies masquerading as no entities masquerading as allies.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are listening to channeling, or listening to what they see in that realm and taking it as gospel, where in fact a lot of the time we try and teach is that you need to default to your intuition and your spirit and your guidance, not listen to random things talking to you at different points. Do you really know who you're talking to?
Yeah.
So there is something about aura transformation which is a direct line, and like you plug into your own power, and you do not default to giving your power outside of yourself. So it's a whole shift in beliefs, the way you function. It's like having the Nokia 360, the old Nokias, and
Mhm.
then the brand new 5G, the latest iPhone thing. And you look at that, you can't play certain apps on that. You can't connect to the new Wi-Fi's on this. So this old system is not up to speed. Like the processing power is not there. It's noisy, it's clunky. Whereas this is like the new, sort of direct interface that is just so much more. I don't know what the words are actually. It's just being super connected to yourself in a new
Yeah.
way. And so, yeah, that's kind of like how I got to aura transformation. And I just knew from the beginning that I was going to be an instructor. And that was a long journey, like almost 4 years of training. And then COVID happened. And I don't know if there's any questions about aura transformation.
I was just going to say, can anyone have this no matter where they are in their life? Yeah, can anyone? But is it a process? Do they need to be doing something beforehand, or do they need to be in a certain headspace?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, because we are very careful about who we aura transform and not. And it's not that you have to have particular skills or awarenesses or anything like that. It's just that we aura transform people that are in a good place. Like, you have to be quite in a good, you can't, it's not a crisis
Yeah.
management situation. It's not like, God, I'm in a state, I need to go have an aura transformation. It's more like, are you stable enough, strong enough to cope with the transformation that's about to happen? So you need to be somewhat stable. And we do prefer if people have some kind of ways of support, an understanding of what an emotional detox might look like. If you do any, I don't know, healing of any kind, that sometimes it feels a bit rubbish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You're going to cry.
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Discomfort. Yeah.
You're going to cry. You're going to
Yeah.
feel like, the pain that you've been holding on to releasing is actually,
Mm-hmm.
you feel it as it
Yeah.
releases. So imagine so this is a great question, because I didn't explain this. But when your spirit energy comes into your body, and it takes 9 months to a year to crystallize into every cell in your body, it's like upgrading every cell in your body with your own consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That means that anything that's in the way of you being in fully your spirit, your higher self has to come up and out of the way. So it's almost like your spirit energy comes in and it displaces anything that is not meant to be there, that constricts your sense of self-worth, that took you away from your path, that the words that people have said to you that have hurt you and make you shrink, the things that have hindered you from being in your full expression. So anything that's not meant to be there is going to come up, which is not pleasant necessarily.
Yeah.
But we usually call that the first 3 months of grace. So it's
Yeah.
just making sure that people are aware that that is part of the journey, is that it can be a
Yeah.
bit bumpy at the beginning, but that doesn't mean it probably means it's working really well.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, that's a good thing, because it's still in there anyway, and it's going to stay there and maybe manifest in unproductive ways if we're not bringing it to the
Yeah.
surface.
So, and a lot of people, and it's been described, it's almost like having an aura transformation is like 20 to 40 years of talk therapy in a very short space of time. Like, we're just getting to the root of the stuff. It's going to lift up.
Yeah.
And so it's worth being able to hold yourself. And that could mean, for someone that hasn't done this sort of work, it just means that you have a good support network, or maybe you do have some counseling, or, you have someone that can hold you in your process, or that you maybe do have a meditation practice or yoga practice, something that just supports you in holding yourself through those moments. And I think the main thing that we don't aura transform people on antidepressants, which I know a lot of people are, and they're like, oh, I'm taking them because of some other thing, or I'm on such a low dose, or I'm coming off them soon. And basically we have a line that we just do not cross, and that is the antidepressants, and any other medication is fine, actually. Like, we don't, it's not something we look into deeply.
Yeah.
It's just literally that people that are on antidepressants are suppressing that ability to be in the discomfort. And that means that when they come off the antidepressants, the discomfort will appear. And then if they can get through that bit. So I think we say, at least 6 months after coming off them fully, and you've had a bit of this mushrooming of whatever was being suppressed in the first place, you're building some tools towards holding yourself, then you can have an aura transformation. So I have had people, they use AT almost like a light at the end of the tunnel somewhere, like it's something to look forward to, something that they will do. And yeah, it's just because we don't want people overwhelmed. If they've been not processing the stuff they need to process, and then it all comes up with coming off the antidepressants and with an AT as well. It's all too much, basically. And we don't want that. We don't want people being in discomfort. And I mean, to the point of that they're like panicking, you know? So we're just very careful about that. Anyone dependent on drugs and alcohol is a no-no, just because it's another escape from that, you know, being with who you really are and who you're supposed to be. So we just want people to be in a good enough place to
that makes sense.
hold that. Yeah. And then other than that, there is even training as an aura mediator. So I train practitioners in this, and it's an incredible course. And it's the same again. There's some people that have never trained in anything like this. I mean, we have great aura mediators that are skilled in many modalities, you know, acupuncturists and quantum, this, that, and the other. I don't know. You know, there's lots of people that are doing lots of amazing stuff as well as AT. But we have had people that have never had training do the aura mediator training and run with it, you know. And so there's no special skill required. And some people are like, yeah, but I'm not psychic and I'm not clairvoyant.
That's what I was going to ask. Can anyone do that?
Yeah. And what happens is the more you come online in your power, the more your gifts and talents really are opened to you. So the training I did and it was near Edinburgh, the last one I did a couple of months ago, one of the girls that came on, she works for children's homes, and she builds them and develops them and manages them. So she hasn't got like a skill like embedded in the spiritual communities or anything, but she became full on psychic during the course and just ran with it. She was just like, oh my God, I'm seeing this. And she'd never been seeing things like that before. So it really is an incredible self-development tool, like really stepping into your greater gifts and talents and who you are. And that can be very different for everyone, you know, because we're each unique. Like our spirit energy is like a unique fingerprint in the universe. So, you know, like your particular frequency and energy and what you bring here is unique to you. And it is very lovely, Karen.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm just totally engrossed in what you're saying, because I'm thinking, it's food for thought for me. So I consider myself spiritual. I feel very connected to myself and what I call my soul. But yeah, it's just this is like a whole new world for me, and one that's really intriguing, and I know can only bring good things and growth with it as well.
Yeah, and for me, stepping into the aura transformation, like all that noise and the swampy noise and being attacked, it disappeared overnight. And there was some grief in that. I was like, oh my God, that was really colorful and weird and fantastical. Where is it all gone? And it was almost like I came into super functional human adulting, like, phew. And actually I would never go back. If I had to choose between the two worlds, I would go to the one where I can actually manifest things, make them real, make them happen, that people feel my energy, people, you know, rather than being all over the shop, but in some sort of magical wonderland. You know, like all of that was great, colorful, but I wasn't able to land anything. I was constantly like battling in these energy worlds, and I see that a lot with people, certainly in Scotland, actually. I found moving to Scotland such a trip. You know, like it's taken me a couple of years to understand how the dimensions work here and how the frequencies are different. And it's almost like some parts of I don't know if I'm right or wrong exactly, but I've tried to understand it, is that everyone seems to be, I had to change dimensions and crystallize again, partially crystallize again, to be seen and visible in Scotland. And that's why I was so keen to talk to you, actually, because I really want Scotland to access the aura transformation energy, because I don't know how long I will live here. But also in the training I just completed a couple of months ago, we have a brilliant Scottish aura mediator now who has like a big audience. She's further north. She's more northwest than you, and she has a huge audience, and she had a waiting list of like 45 people after her training to aura transform. And I was like, amazing. She's already created like a whole funnel thing so that people can access that information. And she's on her way to Australia, actually, and I have clients from when I went to Australia that would really benefit from seeing her, like to have a top-up balancing. So I'm really hopeful that my time in Scotland is fruitful for Scotland too. I'm bringing, it's like the latest, it's one of the most advanced energy healing practices I've ever seen, and I support a lot of different kinds of practitioners with my other work I do on this. I have two lives, I have my stuff I've created and then aura transformation.
Yeah.
And I support all sorts of practitioners with their marketing and visibility and business stuff. I have like a business school for healers. And I've never seen anything like aura transformation in there, really. There's lots of beautiful stuff, but there's something about this that has a beginning, middle, and end. You're selling like someone a new auric structure that then has a journey that goes with it. And it's like stepping into a new land, a new time, a new era of how healing works, how consciousness works, and our potential being more visible and available to make a new world appear. So that's
amazing. Yeah, I will leave details obviously in the description for anyone who wants to go and have a look and delve into it more. And obviously you're happy for people to get in touch and have conversation with you as well.
I mean, I live in a little village outside of in East Lothian on the coast, and it's like 25 minutes on the train from Edinburgh, a 40-minute drive. And I have a cabin in the garden with a beautiful wood burner, and it's all made of glass, and you get to see like the fields and forests. So it's actually a beautiful space to have your aura transformation. And I actually do the trainings there. And I have training. I was going to do one in January, but there's some things have shifted. So definitely March. But I'd like to, do maybe 4 a year, and 1 or 2 of them might not be here. So there'll be definitely one in March near Edinburgh.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Amazing. And what about the heart retrievals? How different is that? Because I know you've got a story behind this as well, your own personal journey. So can you tell us about what that is and how that came to be?
So there was a point in my history where I was like 23, I think. There was a big love story that appeared at that time. I was at uni and I was already in the alternative party activist scene as well. And I was studying, social movements, global change, activism. I was actually using my degree to study that. And there was just a big love story. And there was something about, it ended. It was a short love story, but it was very explosive. It was like one of those big love stories in your life, the kind of, the one that got away and all that kind of thing. And and that's all good and fine. It's just a story. It's just a story in my journey. But what was strange is that the pain of the loss of it never went away for, I don't know, even 13 to 15 years later. If that person's name popped up, or if I had a memory, or if I even drove in the direction of where his energy was somewhere, I would just have silent tears roll down my face. And I couldn't understand it. I was like, how is this even a thing? Like, I've moved on, like things are going on. I've even got a child now, and like I've had other relationships, but it was almost like I was only able to give like half of myself in any relationship because I was so stuck in this old story, and it was so unfathomable. And even with all of my aura transformation work, from today, like as of today, I've neared or I'm around the 20,000 hours of one-to-one and group work in healing stuff. So I'm like really proficient in tracking. I'm a kinesiologist. So a lot of all the work I've created is kinesiology-based group programs. So I don't
What is that?
Okay, so kinesiology is the art of muscle testing.
Okay.
And what you're doing is you're getting a yes and a no from the system. And it sounds like easy, but actually you really need to understand how people's energy fields work, how trauma works, how fear works, how the mind works, how emotions work, because you can easily just answer, you can trick your own self into answering yes and no. So you have to really understand, like really embed yourself in a field where you are tapping into the highest potential of someone, the highest potential and the deepest body wisdom. You don't want to be tapping into the fear or into the story or whatever. So you're getting into a proper zone and you're muscle testing, and then you can really get to very rapidly to the story of whatever it is that's happened. So like lack of sleep or always stressed or not visible with your healing. You're putting healing work out there, but no one's buying. You can really go like, what's the problem here? Where's it living in the system? What happened? Why? When? And within about 3 minutes, you can go through like 90 diagnostics, like tap, 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 tap. You go through, we have all these maps of consciousness, and you can basically locate the issue, when it started, when it happened, what dimension it's in. Is it yours? Is it an ancestor's? How long has it been going on for? What does the body want for it to release? Like, what's the story and how do we release it? And so within about 15 minutes, you can get to the bottom of something very quickly. So it's very powerful, very quick. And it's like being a Sherlock Holmes or like a tracker for animal, an animal tracker. You're walking alongside the person, opening doors and going, is it in there? Nope, it's not in there. It's over here. And really listening to the body. So it's not me going, I know what you need. It's actually the opposite. It's actually, let's listen to what your body's saying it really needs here. And things only come up that you're ready to look at, but there's a lot of blind spots. Like, we don't know what we're not knowing. So it's an incredible tool. And I was doing one-to-one, and I was doing it online as well. I mean, in person and online, because usually you muscle test the person. And a lot of people know kinesiology as muscle testing, like vitamins, or like vitamins or food or muscle strength or something. So we're doing it, the way we do it is the 360-degree multi-dimensional like universe of each human is a universe in itself, like all their influences, where they've come from, where their spirit's going, where do they operate, what's their capacity to hold others, or there's so much that goes there. And I love supporting leaders and people that are really making things happen, change makers, visionaries, healers, entrepreneurs. I really love working with them, because it's like we can also have the vision and the goal that they're working towards, and look at all the things that are in the way, for example. And then what I did was during when COVID happened, I just moved 4 days before to Scotland, and in the middle of a village, and suddenly like everything's locked down, and I can't teach aura transformation, and I can't do aura transformation, and no one knows me, and I don't know anyone. So it was really unfortunate, like weird circumstances. But what happened is it forced me to pivot, but also it forced me to land all these programs that had been building in me. Like, there was a lot that came through me, and from all the work I do with people. If you're a kinesiologist with hundreds of clients, you're picking up patterns in the field, and then you're starting to recognize, like, oh, that's a thing that happens for a lot of people. And I'd noticed that a lot of the healer people that, if you could call me a healer of the healers, if you like, on some level, people come to me for that level of support or mentoring or holding. And then I was starting to see that, well, this visibility thing is definitely debilitating. And it was for me as well, actually, because I'd done talks all up and down the country and all over the world about aura transformation. But the idea of going on video, I would just be like a puddle and couldn't do it. And I was like, that's so weird. I'm like, people were like, why are you worried about video? Like, and I was like, I don't know. And I actually tracked myself, and I had support and help. I had coaching, kinesiology, practice challenges, all this stuff. And eventually I managed to break through and, become like love being on camera, and it's not a problem. And so then I found lots of my clients had that. So COVID happens. I was able to basically land all of these big programs that had been sitting in me, and I'd had loads of notebooks but there was never time. So COVID gave me that opportunity, and I actually landed Visibility Gateway. That's one of my the big kind of magical marketing, or marketing for magical people. But it's also, being showing up on camera, your transmission landing with your clients, so they actually hear you, because we have so many layers that keep us hidden as healers because of historical prejudice and traumas, and not being heard as a child, and ignored, and not being valued or seen for our gifts and talents, or they're not being, like society doesn't value it. So there's a lot of stuff there. And so Visibility Gateway came out. And then I realized that healers and practitioners have a lot of money blocks and stuff. So the Visibility and Money Gateway was like a sister course to really get into the money stories. So instead of working one-to-one with clients, I developed a way of doing kinesiology for groups. So I'm muscle testing the group intelligence and the field around the group. So you're still muscle testing individuals in a group setting, but the stories that brought us together, and the group wisdom that brought us together. So, we're looking at visibility stuff with that group, money with that group. And then I also had Love Again, the heart retrieval mapping consciousness journey. So heart retrieval, so that love story that I was talking about, and it never went away. And that was really painful, actually, and confusing. And I'm like, what is this? Like, is this, maybe it was my spirit soulmate or whatever, I don't know. I didn't really know what to make of it. And it was a bit confusing. And then one day I got a phone call from him, actually. And he said, I know you're not that far away from where I am now. Would you like to meet? And I thought, oh my God, like I was like shake. I didn't want to be with this person. That wasn't it wasn't like, oh, I want to be with the person. I just didn't really
You
understand.
can understand the feeling, or
So,
is it like an attachment?
well, that's the thing. I didn't really know either.
Okay.
So I showed up and met him in person, and we both said the same thing. It's not gone away. It's super uncomfortable. It's like this never-ending thing. Like, what is this? And then so I went home, and the realization that it wasn't just me was a big thing, because I was like, I thought it was just me, like me being weird or like somehow, I couldn't really understand it. So I had a friend support me in tracking through the new, like meeting him meant I could feel into what this thing was a lot more. There was a lot of question marks that opened up, and I was able to just a friend hold space for me once I started tracking. And then I started seeing that there was all these like threads that were attached to our heart threads were like kind of all knotted up. And I tried to release it, and it was almost like the heartbreak had never been able to heal because of that stuckness. So suddenly this whole actual pain and suffering in my heart was able to compost and move through a natural sort of, what do you call it? Well, yeah, composted. It composted down to like freedom.
Yeah.
And we met once or twice more, and he said that the change in his life, and for me too, we were finally free. And I don't even think about him, or we don't even talk anymore. There's nothing there now, and it's just like a huge freedom. So then I started thinking, like, okay, so we have different heart threads with people all over the place in all our lives, in different, ex-partners and family members. And so what I started doing was working on friends, actually. I was like, do you mind if I try stuff out with you? And so I developed something called heart retrieval, which was, and I had two ways of measuring heart threads. So we have heart threads where it's attached to someone, and it's actually quite rare. That heart thread to heart thread thing is actually quite rare. And then the other one is heart thread to story. And that's where we build up a whole story, and it's based on our childhood wounding, probably mostly, like the abandonment thing, and then they abandoned me, and then, the story of abandonment is there. So it's about the story of abandonment rather than the person. And that is more typical.
Makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I started basically a 2-hour heart retrieval, one-to-one, just on its own. That's what it was at first. And I could do it online as well. Was you list all your love stories and like just the names of all the people. So it could be family members, it could be pets, it could be miscarriages, it could be friendships that are gone, lost and relevant now, and lovers and ex-partners and husbands and dead family members and, whatever, just a long list. And some people come with 10 names. Some people come with 180 names, which is a bit long. But what I did was just muscle test through each relationship and checking like the connection and putting percentages. And an average is like 1, 2, 3% per person usually. But sometimes there's some crazy percentage. Like me and that person was 69% heart thread to heart thread, which is highly unusual in terms of me having mapped hundreds of people's heart threads now. So doing these heart retrievals with people developed a whole new map of human relating and how we relate, and attachment and emotions, and the weirdy stuff like the psychic connections, and also deeply wounding connections as well. And so, yeah, I started building up like a whole kind of understanding of different kind of understanding. And then what I realized is that people were going out into the world after feeling amazing after heart retrieval, like having all their heart threads back. It feels like you have a very different experience of yourself. And then I realized that they start giving their heart threads out again. Woo! So there was almost like some kind of integration that wasn't landing, or an understanding of how to maintain that. So I started thinking, like, what kind of tools do you need to hold your heart threads back, or not to give them out again? So I realized you needed to understand grief. You need to understand forgiveness. You need to understand the way your body wisdom tries to talk to you, the elements. You have an understanding of the masculine, feminine within you. You need an understanding, like, so much stuff. So I started building this course I called it Love Again, because it's not about, people think Love Again is about finding love again, like another person, a relationship. But for me, it's not that. It's about realizing that your relationship to love is that it doesn't matter if you are heartbroken or splayed open, that you can pick yourself up again and be open and innocent and sweet to love in your life. Like, love yourself, love your family members, love other people, but also that you don't have to start shutting down that, oh, I never want to be hurt like that again, or that I'm getting emotional because I know how many people close off to love, and love isn't what people think. I don't think people realize what it is. And I know that through the last few years of my life, I've gone through a whole new transformation of really blossoming into something. I mean, I was already quite radiant, and people would recognize that stuff from aura transformation and doing a lot of healing work. But there's something new and soft and really sweet that is happening now, where there's this an innocence and playfulness and silliness that has come online, maybe feminine as well, more feminine for me. It is being in love, like in a field of love for yourself, and knowing how to come back to it again and again, is untold gifts of really enjoying life and connection and others, but also a deep trust in being able to overcome anything, really. And I think that's what a lot of my courses give people, that courage and empowerment to lift themselves up. I actually don't want to see my clients again. I want them to be tooled up. So a lot of my courses are teaching I called it advanced consciousness strategies to really help you know what to do in situations. Like, so if you have like a abandonment wound, what do you do with that? Or if you have a propensity, the hungry ghost, feeling that you're always looking for something to plug in to make you feel okay, then how do you work with that? So I found with heart retrieval that the group work has just been incredible. So you have a group of people come together to do the process, and we do kinesiology every week or every other week. There is coaching, so you each talk about your own problems and what's going on and the situation and what you're working through, and you get my individual help in a group coaching scenario. And then you have all these guided energy tools that you plug into and listen to that teach you how to do forgiveness, or how to do grief, or how to do whatever you need to do. And then we do a 2-part group heart retrieval. So we're retrieving the heart threads from the everything and everyone. And why that works well with aura transformation is and I didn't know I was doing this. I didn't know until I'd done loads of it, to realize that when we pull our heart threads in, you are designing or rebuilding what might have been broken in your inner structures of a human personality and a human, the heart, a supportive, harmonious inner self. So, and that to me looks like architecture. And when we have childhood wounding or difficult upbringings, there's parts of the architecture missing. And so what we're doing when we pull our heart threads in and learn to love ourselves and to plug into ourselves what we could never find outside of ourselves, actually, not permanent. When you're plugging in all that energy back in and rebuilding the sense of self, like this pillar of strength, that is healing core wounding at a deep level. So I didn't realize, but this is like an innovative technique to heal deepest core wounds, and also a very visible way of understanding or reversing codependency tendencies. So, and then to operate from a full heart and knowing how that feels means that you have a benchmark that when you go out in the world, you're like, oh, that's not me in my full heart. That's me like splaying outwards again. And then you know how to come back to yourself. So all the stuff I teach, including the visibility stuff, is all about coming back to that, what does it mean to be a fully self-expressed human with like an integrity and harmony within that is innocent, sweet, and beautiful? And that's what having your spirit energy in your body is. So the aura transformation is like the outer architecture holding in a new way, and heart retrieval will be like the inner architecture.
Yeah.
Visibility gateway is about having your wings span out and courageously speaking about healing work so that people can really connect with you, and that we elevate our profession so that people really start taking us seriously again, like they did maybe thousands and thousands of years ago, putting ourselves back in the center of the village and the boardroom, where we can influence the direction of human consciousness. I mean, if you were interested in Visibility Gateway, you can put your email in and you'd get a bunch of emails plus 3 free videos that really go into deep energetics of
Yeah,
visibility for
that's
healers.
intriguing for me. Yeah.
There's that. If you were interested in the money, like your money story and mapping your money story, I've got a couple of free workshops that you can access if you sign into the money one. If you're interested in love again, heart retrieval, I have a YouTube channel which has hundreds of like a couple of hundred videos on all these topics.
Yeah, I'll leave that below as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and for aura transformation, there is a video to watch that gives you like an outline of what this is, but there's a PDF to read. The only prerequisite is this PDF. We just want to make sure people understand what they're getting themselves into, that you're having a permanent shift in your consciousness, and just understand the terrain a little bit. So there's another link for that. What else is there? I do one-to-one, but I don't really advertise one-to-one, but I have one space at the moment for a one-to-one person, if that's of interest. And I can't think. I mean, I have a lot of stuff that I've done over the years that is going to, when my new website is ready, there will be access to so much stuff I've created. Like, I have so many amazing and incredible tools that I've created and shared that are available. They're just not on my website yet. But there will be a lot.
Linktree is the place to go
Yeah.
just now. Yep, I'll leave that below. That's perfect.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And like I said earlier, you're happy for people to get in touch and have a conversation with you and just find what's right for them as well.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that I'm in Scotland, what I really want people to access is come for one-to-one aura transformation, or train as an aura mediator and add that to an incredible way of working with people. And it's such a huge step in your own self-development as a practitioner. And everyone says that, the course is incredible, phenomenal, amazing. And I'm really proud of them. And then all the other stuff I do is online. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You could access my courses are online, and they are live and group with me, like there. Yeah,
amazing.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Like I said, this is like a whole new world for me. I love anything sort of, you were saying, people think it's woo-woo, but I love woo-woo. Yeah. So anything alternative, anything that can help us in our growth and evolving in life. And like I said, I already feel very connected to my soul, and it took me quite a lot of healing and digging deep to get there as well. So, if it's possible for me, it's possible for anyone who's on this journey.
Yeah, same with me. I mean, I know that we can climb out of the worst places in our life. And that's what I've done several times, and you can really see it in my before and after pictures. Like, whoa,
me too.
Yeah. So I think, and I'm so pleased that there's people like us that are willing to stand up and keep echoing out there that it is possible, because I think we have so many technologies or consciousness tools that can support us in actually getting there now. That you're not on your own to do this. Yeah, and it's my greatest honor and passion to support people in this way. I mean, it makes me feel alive. That's what I'm here for. I know I've come here to do this. So, and I really appreciate your, opening that channel for me to speak about it.
That's okay. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us and expanding our minds. Thank you so much.
Yay. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Sarah's journey and Sarah's work. Very fascinating. I was very engrossed the whole time that she was speaking. I don't know about you. Let us know in the comments. I would like to hear your feedback, and if you're enjoying this type of content, these type of stories, any feedback is greatly appreciated. You can also just hit the like button and let me know that you enjoyed this episode. All details on how to contact Sarah and more about her work are all in the description below. If you'd like to contact me personally, I'll leave my email in the description below. My social media is there as well. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.